this room are going to go through that is pretty slim. You see, we identify with the victim. The question we should be asking is, how do we stop beating and killing others who are praying for the love to be able to forgive us? What our dollars do in this world. You know the date, but do you know what happened during 9/11? Where a country and the hopes of that country were shattered, with thousands of people dying, not just on 9/11, but the days after. 9/11, you know the day. You know what I'm talking about. Yes, I'm talking about 1973, 9/11, when Pinochet came into power in Chile with the help of our dollars. A reign of terror for 16 years until 1990. We know the date. The 20th of August, 1998, in Sudan, the Clinton administration bombs Al-Shifa pharmaceutical company that provided 50% of all medication in the Sudan. I went to the Sudan a number of years after that. I watched mothers carrying children hopelessly dying of malaria, not able to get medication. Do you know the date? 20th of August, 1998. We will not have peace in this world. We will not become peacemakers until we know the dates of terror that we have inflicted on others, as well as we know the dates of terror that others have inflicted on us. By the way, 20th of August 1998, it was covered in the Boston Globe, the Washington Post, the Guardian, the New York Times. Last night we listened to Lema Boy. She spoke powerfully about an analogy of violence, anger, pouring it into a violent cup or a non-violent cup. I wonder if our problem is that we're not angry enough. What makes you angry? When the price of gas goes up? Or when more of our children go and learn how to kill, and we tell them that they are heroes, when all they are victims to a lie, the lie that says you can be a killer with honor, the lie that says you can actually be alive while you kill another. We are addicted to violence. This nation knows that more than any other. It's never going to be easy to kick an addiction. We're always going to think one more drink. And the one more drink becomes the first of many more. The alcoholic needs to admit that he is powerless. And then join together with other people who feel powerless too. And admit their addiction. Confess it. Hi, my name is Alan, and I belong to the most violent nation in the world that spends more money on military than any other nation put together. Can we say those words? And only when we're able to admit that in the presence of others, and then rely on a power, however you understand that power, that is higher than us, to begin to transform us, to make a stringent list of the things that we have done wrong, to admit them, and then to make amends, to go through as a nation a 12-step program, as the most violent nation in the world. Sign up. And then, in our powerlessness, we will discover what Michael Nagler invited us to see as nonviolence, as that power that is unleashed when all desire to harm is overcome. And only then will we be feeling powerful again. People have been asking me, Alan, what do we do? What do we do? Where do I stand? What do I do? Well, it's very difficult to transform a system that we are dependent on for our livelihood. Very difficult. And so what we need to do is, in those little AA communities, confessing that we are a violent people, we need to somehow wean ourselves off the system that we are dependent on. I mean, don't you get it? I mean, for me, let me use Christian language for a moment. I am dependent. This is the contradiction I live with in my life. I am dependent on my sin for my survival. Sin meaning wages of death, way of death. I am dependent on a way of life that is in actual fact a way of death for my survival. And when I turn against my sin, it feels like I'm dying even though I'm coming alive. We have to admit that we are dependent on our sin for our survival. But it, like all addiction, is killing us and those after us and those around us, not to mention God's creation. Now let me close. If you had interviewed political analysts in the Middle Eastern region in December 2010, and if you had asked them the question, what is the likelihood of there being a regime change in this part of the world? Places like Tunisia and Egypt. Places supported by these dollars, our dollars. Superpower dollars. The political analysts would have said it would be impossible. That would be December 2010. Interview those same analysts in February 2011, and they would say it was inevitable. As the Intifada, the Arab Spring, began to spread and take root, because a vegetable grower, a vegetable seller, set himself alight, which kindled the fire of freedom and justice in the hearts and minds of family in that region. You see, political analysts are not to be counted upon in regard to what is possible in this world. Liberation, peace, will come like a thief in the night. And it's not for you and I to know dates or times. The most amazing thing about the people who were in the struggle against apartheid, for me, were that they joined the struggle with no expectation to see liberation themselves. And yet, they joined it not for certain results, but because it was right. We have to liberate ourselves from our addiction to certain results. Thomas Merton said that years ago. Set yourself free from limiting results. Just do what you need to do. The results will come. We heard that over these few days. Who knew that when a little 14-year-old boy, when he was treated with dignity and respect and given a social security number and given a driver's license, who knew that what that would do would refine a conscience that could lead a people, that could set people free? Who knew? It was an unmeasurable act of human relationship. And we need to awaken ourselves to the unmeasurableness of our actions. That we cannot actually see the impact thereof. And so do what you do, not knowing what impact God will do with it through the world. Do you really think Lema Mbu here last night expected to be standing here 15 years ago? So what do we do? I want to ask you to do something specific. Look, the truth is, I'm 44 years old, right? If I have a good innings, I'm at half-time. I'm at half-time. And I'm sorry to say it, looking out at some of you, you passed half-time. And looking at some of you more closely, it looks like you're in injury time. I'm serious. You don't have too many years left. Okay? So why don't you make them count? You've got nothing to lose. I want to speak specifically to the people of my faith. A Christian, a Methodist. When is the Methodist Church of this nation going to refuse to allow members of its church to enter the military? When? When will children's church teachers teach their children that that's the gravest sin, that there's nothing heroic in it to kill family? Why don't you do it? Don't just call the troops back home from Afghanistan. Tell them to hand in their guns and their uniforms. Do it. Got nothing to lose. Your game is nearly over. It's the right thing to do. There are people on that side praying that you will do that. Let's lament. Let's lament. Let's not build any more monuments. I've stood here today for one person. His name is Bradley Manning. You asked me what gives me hope. People have asked, Alan, are you hopeful? said, I'm hopeful because of one person, Bradley Manning. Bradley Manning is 24 years old. 24 years old. He spent the last 902 days in military prison, most of which has been in solitary confinement, in chains. Bradley Manning. All because he revealed documents that exposed the truth of the killing of Iraqis from an American helicopter. And he sits in one of your prisons. Bradley Manning. You want to know what you can do? You can give your life for his freedom, because he has given his life for the freedom of this world. Pray for his sanity. Pray for his healing. Bradley Manning. Bradley Manning. If there's anything that I've said here that is true, may it set us free.
As we enter into a time of silent prayer, I invite you to reflect on what you have seen, what you have heard, and what you have felt this weekend and this morning. And hopefully when you came in, you received a card like this. And if you didn't, you can use your bulletin to write down some words or phrases that come to your mind as you reflect on these things that you can do as you leave this place to make a difference for peace and nonviolence. So as we enter into this time of silent prayer, I invite you to hold on to this card, take it with you, keep it in your wallet as a reminder of this week and this weekend. Thank you.